Yes guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. We are back again at Ultraflex Derby. It's a solo session today, so Reese has bottled it, he's actually deloaded. And I haven't got any clients with me, which would be nice, but it's kind of like a last minute thing. I thought I would be training with Reese, but to be fair, training on my own, like I quite enjoy training on my own, headphones in, you can just crack on. In terms of the session, it is predominantly back focused because my back is weaker than my push musculature. So I have like 4 main back movements, 2 main push movements, and then a bit of side delts and a bit of arms at the end. So it's not actually too long, it's not too demanding of a session. It's quite a fun one to be fair, so follow along. I will go through the tips and tricks as I always do throughout. Before the session, I've had my mega pump. I don't know if Sam got it, I was having it on the treadmill. So this is fruit burst flavour, which is nice, but my favourite is the peach, followed by the raspberry. Both very good. 2 scoops on upper days, 1 scoop on leg days, mainly because like when it comes to a leg session, I'm not that arsed about getting a really good pump, but I still like the benefits of the blood flow and the extra sort of focus that it gives me. And then I also have in here the orange soda HydraFlow. So I have 3 servings of HydraFlow a day. I basically have 1 upon wake, which is in here, so 2 litres pretty much each time. So 1 upon wake, and then I've usually finished that by the first like couple of hours of the day. Then I have 1 pre/intra workout, so I have this on the way and throughout the session. I also have 30 grams of carb drive in here, which is 25 grams of actual carbs. Carb drive is a really good carb powder. It's not just like maltodextrin or cyclic dextrin. It also has other things in there like estrogen. I think it has citrulline malate in it as well. Basically helps with blood flow and absorption of it as well. And then, like I say, the final HydraFlow serving is post-workout. So I have 3 servings of that a day. Basically just an electrolyte supplement, helps with, again, blood flow, hydration. It also just helps like mentally with work, like staying more focused and staying well hydrated throughout the day. So yeah, that's my little plug for Conte. Link is below, Fin10 for discount, 10% off. But yeah, we'll crack on. I'll go through some posing at the end, show you an update as always. Sit back, relax, enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So I'm doing chin-ups for the first movement for the back session, or well, for the first part of the upper session, the back part. I'm doing chin-ups because, first of all, it helps in terms of just feeling like this left shoulder feels better for being in that hanging position. Second of all, it's a movement which challenges the shortened range quite heavily. So from a sort of exercise selection and a profile standpoint, makes sense having it a little bit earlier on. I've also had a couple of people message me like, how come you're doing this when you've got all the equipment you've got at Ultraflex? I like it, like really that simple. I get a decent connection with my lats, I quite enjoy the movement. It's a very basic movement. I feel like in the past I've made good visual progress through my back from chin-ups and pull-ups, bent over rows, T-bar rows. Basic movements have worked well for me in the past, so I'm doing them. I have a chin-up at the start of this session. I have a pull-up at the start of my Monday pull session. I have bent over rows. I've been doing some T-bar rows, like doing movements that I know I've benefited from in the past. I like doing single arm rows or pull arounds, etc. They feel good as well, and there's a place for them. I'm not just going to completely neglect those. Literally the movement after this is a single arm row. But also, there's a place for basic movements that I know I enjoy and connect well with and have always worked pretty well for me. Heavy. That's like a perfect example of the benefits to doing like a top set, back off set approach, or a heavier and a lighter set. So warming up, doing body weight, it feels heavy and it feels pretty hard, and I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to get many. Then I do 10 kilos, get a decent amount, I think I got like 10. Then I do 25 kilos and I got like 4 or 5. Felt really heavy. come back down to body weight and it feels like nothing. It feels really good and pretty easy. So that's really the premise behind doing like a top set, back off set, is that your back off sets will feel lighter, and in turn over time you're going to be able to keep getting stronger and doing heavier loads for more reps over time and making it feel easier by not being afraid to do those like lower reps, heavier sets. So one thing that I would really suggest on any kind of back movement, any rowing movement, any pulling movement, use straps, but also use a hook grip. So you'll see when I'm wrapping into this, I'm not gripping like this with my thumb the opposite side of my fingers. I'm actually gripping like this, so that my thumb is on the same side as my fingers. That's going to mean that basically the handle sits a bit further forward in my hand. The line of force is generally going to be more favourable to the point where I'm not gripping with my hand as much. I'm not pulling through my forearm and my bicep as much. Also, you could argue, with it being a little bit further away, you've got a greater leverage. You'll see people with crazy long arms, they're usually really strong at pulling, not very good at pressing, but they're strong at pulling because they've got those long leverages. So the handle being a little bit further away and in a direct line with your forearm is generally going to mean that you're able to drag through your lat rather than pull through your hand and through your bicep. Oh. Oh. Another thing, I think a lot of the time on like isolation work, people just don't like do it with any purpose. Like they'll do a single arm row like that and they're like, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, row it. Like, you can still be powerful and engage your musculature that you're trying to train. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Control your eccentrics, that should be a given anyway. Stronger through that portion of the rep, makes more sense to control the eccentric range more. But when it comes to concentric, be powerful within reason of still engaging. Like then I get an amazing connection with my lats. If I didn't, I would slow it down and I would focus a little bit more to try and like drag. But once you've nailed that connection, once you can train accurately, be a bit more powerful with it. Like, they feel amazing, even though I'm trying to like drag it in as powerfully as I can. I'm not throwing it and twisting my whole body. I'm just thinking to drag my elbow down as hard as I possibly can. Actually have purpose with your isolation movements. Don't just treat them like a slow, controlled bit of fluff work. Like, you can still attack them like you would a compound. So that's 3 sets of the chin up, 2 sets of a single arm row. That's my main lat work done. My lats will be involved on these other movements, but they're my lat isolation. So 5 sets of lat isolation work, 3 from a more vertical plane, you could argue a little bit more iliac or lower lat, 2 from a more horizontal plane, which you could argue are going to be a little bit more like lumbar, thoracic, upper lat basically. Now we're staying on here because I really like this for an upper back row as well. So I have 3 sets on this for an upper back row. Then we have a upper back focus kind of pull down, like a terrace pull down, and that's the back work done. So a pull down from a lat perspective, if you like, a lat dominant with the elbows tucked in more, an upper back focus pull down, a row lat dominant with the elbows tucked in more, a row upper back dominant with the elbows flared and more scapular movement. 4 movement, hitting the back from all angles. Obviously you could argue I could have some form of like spinal extension into the lower back, but with this being an upper session and not just a back session, if you want to see like my back session, we filmed it a few weeks ago. It has the yeah buddy rows in. You'll see all the other back work I do in that, whereas this is like 4 basic movements for back, and then like I say, we go on to the push dominant movements afterwards. It's me on the big screen. Shout out to Ultraflex Derby for putting me on the big screen so often. I do appreciate it, it's pretty cool. The first time I saw it was last Saturday. I walked in and I was like, oh, holy fuck, that's me. Then I went around just asking people if they wanted a photo and a signature. No, it is really cool. Like, obviously this channel's not massive. Like, I'm not a social media, I wouldn't class myself as an influencer. I just like doing YouTube videos and helping people and coaching and bodybuilding. So, and documenting the journey. So it's pretty cool that I'm on the big screen at the gym that I train out of. And like, if you'd have shown me that 5 years ago, I'd have been like, what the fuck? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you think that's only like the biggest influence in the world. So it's pretty cool. But to be fair, like, obviously thanks to the guys here that put me on the screen, because it's quite a nice touch. They put quite a few people on that make videos out of this gym. Shout out to Sam behind the camera as well for making such good videos. Thanks, mate. So, 3 sets on this. First 2 I have with like a 1 second pause and lengthen, because the stack's pretty light. So 1 second pause and lengthened and like a micro pause on contraction. And then set 3 in brackets on my program says YB. You know what that means, guys. So, yeah, buddy. So the 3rd set is a legitimate, like, I want it to look, I'm not gonna say I want it to look shit, but it's not meant to look pretty or strict. Like, it's just a case of put the stack on, get after it, see how many reps I can get. I always get a good connection with it. I always get a good pump afterwards. So why not? Ready? Yeah, buddy, set. The goal is for the whole gym to stop and be like, what the fuck is that? That's how bad it's supposed to look. Oh. Yeah, buddy. Oh, really good. I say it's like, yeah, but it like, that's just a normal set for most people. That would be a normal set if this stack was really heavy. But because it's not that heavy and they don't want you to use a gym pin, I obviously slow down the first 2 sets to make them more challenging on like close to the stack or the stack. But that set feels really good. How did it look, Sam? Wasn't too bad. Could have been a lot worse. Do it worse if you want. Do it worse now. Mate. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, you're there.
I'm there, Sam. What am I doing hiding behind everyone?
Is that you there?
That's me.
You know that don't look like you.
I know, I was almost dead then, that's why, mate. Almost dead. Yeah. Yeah, just put that one up, leave them down there.
Yeah, we're going to get them all.
Yeah, that'll be good, man. So, like I said, 4 movements, 1 upper back row, 1 upper back pull down, 1 lat row, 1 lat pull down. This is the upper back kind of pull down. I'm leaning back by 20 to 30 degrees, allowing the scapula to move. I want to protract and then retract, thinking to like drive my chest through the middle. It's going to be predominantly like teres major. Lats will still be involved, but rhomboids, traps, rear delts, like that's what I'm looking for on here. Similar to the row I've just done, but from up here. Literally it. So I have 3 sets on here as well. So 6 sets of upper back, 5 sets of lats in 4 exercises in probably the space of just over an hour. Like, that's the main back, well, that is the back session done, the back part of the session. And I think, again, like I've said before, I said it on my last leg session, like, people are married to that top set, back off set approach. Like, I can get away with a bit more volume through my back, especially like these movements, none of them are that demanding. If I was doing a bent over row, fair enough, or a deadlift in this session, fair enough. But none of these movements are that demanding. So 3 sets of a chin up, sound. The reason I only do 2 sets on a single arm row is because it's a little bit more time consuming. Obviously it feels like 4 sets. But all these other movements being dual arm, I can easily get away with 3. Get those LPs. You got them, yeah? So the reason that I'm using the D handles is mainly so that I can take like a semi-pronated grip. So this would be a pronated grip with my palms facing down. This would be a supinated grip. This would be neutral. I want to be here, semi-pronated. That's what feels most comfortable for me. If I stick a bar on there and I take a pronated grip, I end up like pulling like this, and it just feels awkward. I feel a little bit of pain through my wrist. My left shoulder doesn't pull through the same. Also, with the imbalance that I have and the issues on my left side, it helps me recognize those weaknesses. So if that left side's dying out, I can see it on a video, or I can feel it if I'm not getting the same sort of pull through that left side. So that's why I do it with the D handles instead of just a normal bar. So I do 2 sets on here, both paused. First set with a longer pause, both on the stack with the extra little 4.5 added as well. It's not a heavy stack, so I basically do 2 sets. First set with like a 3 count, and I'm just progressing that pause. So when I get above like 10, 12 reps, I'll just add another second, 4 count, add another second, 5 count, because again, they don't want you adding a gym pin. Still feels really good. And then the second set I'll just do with like a slight pause at the bottom. Not quite as long, obviously being a bit more fatigued on that second set. Oh. Oh. Now on to a chest press. I was just saying off camera to Sam. So I had an MRI scan done on like my back and this left scap, and apparently it's something to do with my ACJ, so basically like joint within my shoulder. This makes me like pretty poor at any kind of like external rotation on this left side, which is causing like a lot of instability. Like I've not done any dumbbell pressing for probably like 4 or 5 years, like literally since, well, I've tried now and again, but like I've not been able to do a proper set. I'm literally like this with this left side. So obviously I can do presses, but they've generally got to be in more of a sort of internally rotated position, or just tucked in slightly more, like a Nautilus press or a neutral grip press, the hoist press I'm just about to do. Even a Smith, the one I'm using at the minute is an angled Smith that tucks in front of my body rather than being out here. I was doing that Jim Lecco shoulder press, but again, puts you into quite a lot of external rotation. Even here, my shoulder's pinching. So that's obviously causing an issue. And then again, I still think there's something different that's actually in relation to my back and my ribs, but nothing came up with that. And that's not been too bad recently, being like, I am reintroducing hinging and just being careful with it. So fingers crossed that stays fine. It's not bad at all at the minute, but just got to work around this shoulder and basically just rehab on this shoulder, which is at the minute just going to be like trying to strengthen up the joint and the rotator cuffs basically.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Yeah, who don't play, 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 play. 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 Who don't.
Oh dear. 4 plus 2. So obviously on the hoist kit you've got the foot pads, which is generally what you're supposed to do, but I find it a lot more stable with my feet on the floor, plus it does make it a little bit easier. Like, I don't think I'd be moving 5 plates if I had my feet on the platform. And I'm not saying it's all about total load, I'm just saying it is a little bit easier with your feet off. But it feels better. That actually, like, I find there's certain movements where you can't get away with doing that. Like, if I was to try and do that on a dumbbell press, like I've just said, no chance. A barbell press, no chance. Some kind of a lat movement, a single arm lat row for 4 reps, probably gonna feel pretty shit. Hamstrings for me, anything less than a 7-8 rep leg press just doesn't feel good. But my chest is like blown up from that, and it was not a good set. Like, I got 4 reps, but my chest felt really good, and like now I'm like, okay, my chest feels like I've done a decent amount there. So pick and choose your battles when to actually go for those sets. I wouldn't have gone for a set knowing I'm going to get, let's say, 2 reps on something like the pull down that I did earlier. Very hard to get fully short. Felt pretty good though. So last week on that I did 4 for 9, and then 4.5 for 4. This week I did 5 for 4, and then 4 for 9 and a couple of reps. So I got the same on the back off set as I did on the top set last week. Again, like I said earlier, don't be afraid to chuck a bit of weight on and go a little bit heavier. Obviously 5 plates felt really heavy, which meant 4 plates felt really light.
Selling the customers, run up the business. God is my witness. Sun up to sun up from Monday to Sunday. We maxing the limits. My mind running like Tom Cruise on an action movie. Moving a mission. They say that I'm tripping. I've been told I need a vacation. I'm finessing a visit. First class, my feet up high in the air on business. Yeah.
So I tried the single arm. Didn't feel great. But don't be afraid to try new things. Experiment with things. Felt okay, I got a decent stretch, but because it works like bilaterally, you're trying to come across and get a good contraction, you sort of stop about here. And contrary to favourable belief, is that the saying? Contrary to something belief, whatever the saying is, it's actually, I quite like getting a muscle short, even though that's not the in thing anymore. So, I did 3 sets on the pec fly. The first one was just like a bit of a warm up, and then 2 straight sets with partials, with LPs, lengthened partials. Felt really good. And I've got 3 sets of a JM press, which I've just done there. So the goal here is sort of maximizing elbow flexion. So I'm thinking to literally like fold my arms in half and then extend. So I'm doing this movement very similar to if you're doing like a tricep push down, but I'm just doing it in a little bit more of a stable environment, lying back on the bench. The only drawback of this exercise is similar to what I was saying earlier. I would prefer to have like a semi-pronated grip and press like this. That feels a lot more natural and comfortable for me. That sort of full pronation feels a little bit awkward. That's the only thing. I mean, I could do this with dumbbells, for example, but I do quite like the stability of the Smith. So 3 sets on this, 3 sets of a lying dumbbell curl, which I'm about to do. I'll superset in between, lateral raise, and then done. So the reason I'm doing these is to really sort of emphasize that stretch. Obviously I'm in quite a lot of shoulder extension, my arms behind my torso, really fully stretching out the bicep. Also, as I curl up, it's pretty hard through that mid to lengthened, and then it drops off fully in the shortened range. So it's a nice sort of favorable profile. If you have issues with your shoulders, this will feel a little bit awkward to get used to. I was just saying to Sam, like getting into it feels a bit awkward, and then when I relax and almost let my arms hang down, it feels fine. But if it feels painful, don't do it. This is something that I got a question on Instagram about, the way that I'm doing my lateral raises. So letting my arm come across my body, coming out at a diagonal with the cable sort of behind me. And they were like, when I do your lateral, I get pain in my shoulder. Or they were saying they get like a clicking. I was like, don't do it then. Like, it's that simple. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, it's not gonna be the be all and end all to your progress. Like, do what feels good for you. That lateral feels amazing for me. I get a really good connection, better than I ever have on side delts. So I do it. If it feels uncomfortable for you and you get a bit of gliding across your clavicle, it pops, it's painful, don't do it, and do whatever's felt good for you as a lateral raise in the past. Oh. 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 Right guys, so that is a wrap, upper session done. I think the last time I spoke to the camera was like on the arm stuff, so I did a superset of the JM press and the lying bicep curl, and then I finished off with a myo rep set on the Atlantis lateral. So basically the concept there is just trying to get as many effective reps in a really short period of time, basically take it to failure, give myself like 5-10 seconds, go again to failure, 5-10 seconds, go again to failure, basically until I can only get 1 rep. When I can only get 1 full rep, then just take partials and then the set's done. So that's what I was doing as like a myo rep set, just to be a bit more efficient with time. Then I went through some posing. I think Sam got some video, some photos there. Not actually looking that bad. Average weight this week's 187. I've kind of like hovered around 187 for the past like couple of weeks. Like I'm still trickling up, but within like the 187. So like I think my first average like 3 weeks ago was like just bang on 187, then it's like 187.3, now it's like 187.8, so I'm at like the higher end of the 187s, but that's spot on. Like I want to be gaining like a couple of pounds a month at the minute. I don't need to be gaining any faster than that. Plan is to push on towards 200 pounds in the next 5 months or so, which again is about £2 a month, towards the back end of the year, pull back before me and Shannon go to Cape Verde. So that's the plan, Cape Verde Classic. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So I hope you've all enjoyed. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow the Once You're In, You're In podcast if you're not already, and I'll catch you all in the next video.